So we're here today with Kerrie Bates from the Department of Recreation to talk about one of our favorite celebrations of the year, Illumination. Okay. So can you tell us how you're going to kick us off this year, Kerrie?
So Ipswich Illumination is 2 weekends this year. There's the first weekend, October 11th and 12th, and then there's the second weekend, October 25th and 26th. The first weekend is downtown, and the second weekend is downriver. The first weekend is a revisiting of many of our Illumination favorites. So the Ipswich Community Band will be there. Ipswich River Watershed is offering crafts. Play is the Way has got this lantern project for young children and families. This way they can do their project and then be part of the Illumination. We've got some great musicians lined up with egrets only. For circles, lines, and squares, family-friendly folk dance. We've got everybody's favorite, bottles and cans. This year, new, I think, to our Ipswich musical experience, is a national touring band called the Clements Brothers. They are really something special. They happen to live in Gloucester, so they are available. And so they will take to the Takeout Terrace Truss main stage at 7:40 p.m. on Friday, October 11th. So although it's all wonderful, I would say that is a do not miss. Also that weekend, we've got some old favorites like Shadow Dance at the Ipswich Hall Haskell House is now Ipswich Now and Then, which is this wonderful slide presentation that marries old black and white photographs, and then they transition into color images of the same location, which is a beautiful collaboration between Gordon Harris and Dan Lovey. There's also 3D Ipswich, which is like, wow, you just have to experience that for yourself. On Saturday night, we've got Gigi and the Noise, super fun pop dance band. And then we've got Sweet Soul Sounds on the main stage on Saturday, October 12th. That weekend at Town Hall is the annual Ipswich Cultural Council Art Show and Sale. So there'll be lots going on in Ipswich and lots to see and do and celebrate that first weekend.
Now you have us really busy. Will there be nibbles?
There will be. We've got food and spirits. We've got our 2 local breweries, and our meadery will be at Illumination this year. We've got some great food trucks that will be there, so there'll be something for everyone. Thank you for asking about that. So the second weekend, right? So there's a dark weekend in between, and that has to do with the tides, right? So Illumination sort of floats around, if you will, in that autumn season, and the weekends are determined by consulting our tide chart, and we have to have certain conditions. Of course, we want to have water in the basin when we're floating on bonfires. But very importantly, this year, on that second weekend, Harold Burnham from Essex, who is a nationally celebrated shipbuilder, is going to be sailing a locally made schooner up the Ipswich River to Ring Rock. And that boat will be on display at the wharf. And so this became this nexus, and we are celebrating our history, heritage, and culture. So Friday, October 25th, on the Green Street Bridge, we've got the Cape Ann Big Band, which is a favorite for many of my dance friends. And then in the middle of the Green Street Bridge is going to be the dance floor, and bonfires will blaze in both directions below. Hopefully it'll be a starry night. And as I often ask myself, when I'm walking around, is it heaven or is it Ipswich, right? So that will be, I'm sure, on everybody's mind on that Friday night. So come to the Green Street Bridge. It will be quite grand.
And what time is that starting?
Ooh, let me check my notes. Oh, wait, it doesn't even start with that, right? Good question. Wait. At 4:45 at the lounge at the end of summer. which is a double entendre because it's at the end of Summer Street where it intersects with Water Street. At 4:45, we've got Cables and Lines, and they are they're local, but they are kind of studio, and they are incredible harmonizers, and they do beautiful original works. And so it's going to be this kind of outdoor living room, loungy, very cool kind of scene. And so from 4:45 to 5:45 is Cables and Lines. Then on the Green Street Bridge, in order to relocate our attention, Jay Stanberry will play a selection on his bagpipe, which is this wonderful tradition, this sort of courage of the lone bagpiper. With my Irish roots, it really speaks to me. So I'm thrilled about that. And this is all a means for people to really have their eye in the right place when Carlos and his team step up to send their flying arrows into the night sky, and the illumination bonfires will be lit at evening, right? So evening is a word that we kind of take for granted, but it really means the balancing point between the light of day and the dark of night.
Love it.
So that's what we got going on that Friday. That's October 25th. And then we shift our attention down to the wharf for the grand finale to welcome Harold Burnham's schooner. We are standing a lighthouse that's a whole other story, which we'll talk about. There's a whale's tale from a wonderful Ipswich High School sustainability scholar. Lots of Ipsy will be back from Derek Rice, this mascot really of Illumination, this fire-breathing dragon, which speaks of all of the fears that we might harbor in our imaginations that, sort of keep us from venturing into life and daring greatly. And so Ipsy, in the old days when cartographers were drafting maps, they would map out the explored territory, and then at the edge of the map, where explorers hadn't gone and the cartographers didn't have information, they would draw traditionally a dragon, and it would say, I don't know, it said it in Latin, but it basically translates to "here be dragons, beyond here lie dragons." And so Ipsy is sort of a symbolic representation of those ideas, and how in community we fortify each other and we recognize and see and validate each other. And so this is the business of illumination.
So wonderful. So wonderful.
Wait a minute. Did I not talk about the Holy Toledo? I forgot to mention.
The paddle.
Oh, right. But that's another thing.
Oh.
Yeah, there's so much going on this year. Right? We have got sea shanty singers, two different groups, right? So the first is Folksel 4, and they are sort of Celtic traditional musicians that play very sort of maritime instruments that would have gone on these ships on these long voyages. Ooh. So Folksel 4 will be there on that that Saturday the 26th. Later on in the evening, we've got the Portermen, which is this wonderful sort of gentleman singing at the pub kind of feeling. And that is a very sort of comforting and soothing sound. We've got, my goodness, the North Shore the North Shore Band is doing a 2-hour set of maritime music called A Nautical Night. And these are wonderful selections that will just have you sort of, your heart soaring. 35 musicians strong. That's going to be during the day on that Saturday the 26th.
At the wharf.
At the wharf. And then as the night falls, we will welcome the Caribbean reggae sound of Mamadou. So this idea of the boats and that tradition of travel and that wonderful summer sound.
Yes, and how all the rum came from the Caribbean up to Ipswich, so it's perfect.
Yes, but it's also fraught. The history is fraught, and so we're going to
But we didn't mention the paddle.
The Labor in Vain Challenge.
Yes.
Okay, so I do have Cyrus coming from the Foot Brothers, and he'll be able to tell us more about that new tradition. But we hope that that becomes really adopted into like a bibliothèque is the library of books, right? Ipswich Illumination has all these little projects that together, become the whole. And so the Labor in Vain Challenge is a paddle. People are invited to put in around 10 o'clock at Pavilion. The start is very sort of self-directed because it's a challenge between you and the river. So why is it called the Labor in Vain Challenge? You may have asked yourself that about the street, oddly and curiously named the Labor in Vain Street. Well, this is an old sort of maritime kind of a joke, right? Because if you were paddling up the Ipswich River against an outgoing tide, one might think that that was a futile effort or a labor in vain. And so this challenge has been chosen specifically to take place at that outgoing tide. So you will be putting in at Pavilion and paddling up the Ipswich River. The real win is to arrive at the wharf specifically at noon, because that's when the Labor in Vain band starts. And so we'll be celebrating all of that. Our victory, ourselves.
And
yes.
again, that will be Sunday because
that's Saturday.
Oh, that would be Saturday.
Yeah, that's the beginning of Saturday, which is the grand finale. And then, of course, on Sunday, we've got our closing ceremony, which is at Pavilion, and it's the Beach bonfire and ocean plunge.
With Ohm Drum.
At 9 a.m. That's going to be really quick, so don't be late. You don't want to miss that.
It's going to be quick because it's going to be cold.
So lots to come out for. And
sounds wonderful,
so
Kerrie.
Fun
You always
to greet my neighbors.
Yeah,
yes.
You always surprise us, and you teach us, and you engage so much of the community and all the different ways that they can enter these events. And it's something that we all look forward to every year. So thank you so much.